Hello, evolving beings. I've been asked to talk about a topic that is very difficult for many people, and it's on the topic of depression because there are just so many people who feel lost, who feel depressed, who don't know what they're doing or why they're doing it, and don't really see the purpose in things any longer. So, first, I'm going to absolutely dispel some of the lies that have been fed, pushing the boundaries, to us to help you definitively understand how you may be keeping yourself in a place of unknowing or depression when you could pull yourself out way quicker than we ever believed. This is prompted because of the video that I did on how treating ascension symptoms is counterproductive. And I highly recommend you go back and listen to that one, maybe before you listen to this whole one. But I'm going to go out on a limb as I do and really lay information out on the line for you. As you know, I was a psychologist and I worked with kids with cancer. And right now in the world, so that you know, the statistics, depending on where you look at them, are now about 20 million clinically depressed people. That's 1 out of 5. But if you take people who are just a little bit depressed or a little anxious or a little whatever, that's closer to 40 million people. And if you ask people, have you ever been on a medication in your entire life? That's about 99% of the people. So if 99% of the people have taken a medication, have you ever thought what that means in a monetary world? Big dollars. And because I don't want to get taken down, I'm going to skip over to the next part, which is, yes, I understand that you do feel depressed. And I have a little bit of help, some suggestions and some things to do a little bit further on in this. But I'm going to share something with one of my clients to show you how strongly we are influenced. We are literally mind controlled by advertisements, by information that comes to us. About 15 years ago, when I was working with the kids with cancer, I had a really brilliant 7-year-old, maybe he was 8. And I came in one morning and he said, Doc, I figured out what's wrong with me. Let me preempt this with the fact that the child was on numerous chemotherapies. And we were discussing his terminal, or we, the physicians, pardon me, were discussing the fact that we realized that he was most likely terminal. He did not know this yet. So I go in and he's like, again, Doc, I know what's wrong with me. I know what's wrong with me. I'm like, what's wrong? What's wrong with you? And he was so excited. He was so happy. So again, understanding that I come from also the spiritual level, a different mode of thinking, I thought maybe the child had already realized what was going on spiritually and we were going to have that conversation. But no, he goes, I saw it on the TV. They explained it to me. Again, I think to myself, okay, now maybe the TV's talking to him. Because remember, when you are working in the spiritual world with dreams and drawings and analysis, anything is open. And you look at those signs and synchronicities to see what a person is telling you without jumping to any conclusions. And I said, oh, the TV was talking to you. Was it on? And he said, oh, yeah, it was on. I saw the little white bubble. The little white bubble was bouncing across the screen. And it said, "Do you feel sad? Do you feel the weight of the world on you? Are you anxious? Can you not do what you used to do? Do you just not feel like going on?" Well, you're not alone. Over 20 million people feel this way too. For those of you who have been around a little while longer, you know this was an advertisement put out by big you know what for specifically the Z, the O, the loft, and pitching depression. Do you know what it feels like to walk in to a room with a terminal patient and have them controlled by the advertising world, thinking that they now figure out that they're depressed? I was the one who sat down and spoke to him and worked through what was going on, helping him to understand he was on very many medications and that his body was going through a lot. And therefore, he was going to feel sad and depressed and not really knowing what he was going to do and all of these other things. And we worked through it. And then we got to the point where most kids get to, is he turned around to me and he said, "Well, whatever you do, don't tell my mother I'm feeling this way because I don't want to put any pressure on her." Of course. So now the 7 to 8-year-old child is putting even more pressure on himself in the process of going through cancer treatment to make sure that his single mother, who is overburdened on her own, going through the system, doesn't get more affected. So, as I do in all of those situations, of course, confidentiality is completely important. So, I find ways to work with the children to get to the point that they can actually have a discussion with their parents. So, we did eventually come to that point. But this gets even more pathological and sick. I just quickly went online because I couldn't remember some of the words in that commercial, right? And I know everybody was talking about it. People were running to their doctors and everybody was getting these prescriptions. And more, my clients were coming to me going, "Oh, I need this, I need this, I need this." And I'm like, "No, no, you don't." And on top of that, Mama Earth has every herb you could ever possibly need. St. John's wort, valerian, you name it, anything and everything I could find an herbal remedy for. So as everybody was running around and the whole depression industry started getting larger and larger and growing, well, they didn't just stop with the Z1. They kept going, and then they'd add the W, and then they'd add the next one and the next one, because to counteract the fact that you're so tired, well, we better give you some Adderall. Or to counteract the fact that you have this, you're responding opposite, so now let's give you some sleep medicine. Well, if this doesn't work, let's add this on. Okay, and not all psychiatrists or medical doctors, please understand, not all of them did this. But I'm honest, most did. So we have to pull our heads out of you know what and start to learn what is really being done to us. Now, it turns out when I went to check on that one, do you know that that company hired an actor, the actor from a TV show called Family Guy? Now, I've never watched the TV show. I basically know what it is, and I can kind of in my head see who the two actors are. They boasted that after that actor came on to that commercial, their sales went up $3.36 billion dollars. This is demonic. This is unconscionable. I can't make it any clearer to you that you are being lied to mind controlled and told something that is not good for your body, but you're still doing it. Have I got your attention yet? There are many ways to slowly, and what I had to do for numerous clients, come off of these, substituting then herbs and then literally being free. However, as I said in one of my other videos, miracles are happening right now and people are able to do it a lot easier. But I would never prescribe that without knowing you, or never encourage you until you have gone through the dark night of the soul and you understand the reason why these things are happening to you and why you made the choices that you made, even if they were the choices with a V. So I was trained in the neurological area. There is something called a synaptic gap. That gap is kind of like, I would describe that one little message has to get from one side, jump over an empty space to reach to the other side. And once it got to the other side, the two would pull together and lock. And the minute those two pulled together or were connected again, as in you're either pregnant or you're not pregnant, the minute those were reconnected, that the person would start to feel better. But that was only for clinical depression. There is a huge difference between clinical depression and suicidal and all the realms before day-to-day life. And this is where I want everyone who even remotely thinks they're suffering from some kind of depression to do me a favor and go take this inventory test that's available online to nip it in the bud and figure out exactly where you are. Now, please understand, if you are feeling suicidal, I want you to go listen to my suicidal video just to help you understand even more. Now, the inventory scale is called the Beck Depression Inventory Scale. The beauty of this, and I'm now actually going to pitch 2 doctors. Yes, medically trained. Yes, one from Yale, one from UPenn. Isn't that amazing? But guess what they studied? Cognitive therapy. That's your thinking. Cognitive distortion. That's how you think in a way that is not productive to your day-to-day life. They were not pitching medicine, they were pitching cognition, how you think. And I will do another video on cognitive distortion and how it's affecting us today. But for now, what I would like you to do is I will post where there is an online place that you can go and answer, I think it's 30 questions. Only takes a few minutes. Be honest. This is for you. This is not for me. You don't need to prove anything to me. You need to prove to yourself where you are at. And the best part is, because this is self-administered, they now actually show you on the bottom what the number, your score is. Now, I would give this to my clients when they came in. They would do it. And the minute that I saw the score, I knew if it was a chemical imbalance, and I knew that it really was just a matter of general life. And yes, they were depressed at the time. Fine, no big deal. It happens. And that's how I knew if it was physiological, if it was physical, if it was related to their body. If they had true clinical depression, and I saw it was physiological, yes, we would pop in and do some work. There are many crazy things one would never think of. But is the depression organic? because your body is fighting a virus? Is it organic because you have yeast overgrowth? This is so much larger than anyone knows and is mostly why many have bipolar disorder. But there is no psychologist or psychiatrist or medical doctor that I know of who is going to talk about that. Is this physical because of the chemicals and toxins that you are putting in your body that are triggering more reactions? The fact is, most people, believe it or not, 90% of the 20 to 40 to 80 million who have been diagnosed with depression at one point or another are not clinical. They're simply going through a trauma or the dark night of the soul, or something is trying to get their attention. Because the most phenomenal thing is, when your body speaks to you, it means it has something to say. The truth is, your beautiful soul and your connection to Source is what saves you. And it can do it in a split second when you've decided to make the changes. And how it saves you is by the fact that if you start to listen to your soul and you connect up with Source and you start to really go within and figure out where it is that you might have gone wrong or what isn't working for you or why you're feeling so blah or yucky. Again, remembering so many people are going through ascension symptoms, and so many of these things are ascension symptoms. So you want to knock those off first, too, before you go jump into thinking you're actually really depressed. But your soul so badly wants you to choose a new direction that it's forcing you to stop, to go within, maybe not even be able to function. Maybe even have some anxiety, maybe even having some sleep disorder. All of these things are the biggest warning signs that say to you, time to make a change. Do you realize that you are so loved that you're going through this? But are you going to help yourself? Are you going to take action? Number one, all I'm asking you to do is go take a look at that list and find out what your score is. Number two, I'm asking you to tell yourself you are way bigger than any illness, any depression, anything, any addiction, anything that anyone says you quote have. Because all, and I mean all, illnesses were created to sell something. And I know this is hard for many to understand. And again, like I've said before, when I wrote the books, people thought I was too hard on this system. But I promise you, you haven't seen anything yet. So you can absolutely snap out of depression so much more quickly than you ever thought. Okay? Higher dimensional vibrations are going to pull you right through, which is why so many people feel off. But also taking a look at that list, and we will discuss the next step as to what you do with your scores, how to start to work with cognitive dissonance. And I want to thank the two doctors who created this. I think it maybe have been in the 80s. David Burns and Aaron Beck. These are the people we need. They taught about cognitive distortions. Their hearts were in the right place. And there is still information. I have not personally looked at their books in a very long time, but I've heard they were updated. So one book, I think David Burns wrote it. It's called Feeling Good, the New Mood Therapy. If you are the type of person who needs to go through the steps to prove to yourself that you no longer need to stay in depression, or that you no longer need to stay in the treatment mode that may not be to your benefit, these are all mind steps that you can go through to make you feel comfortable until we get you to a high enough vibration level without the things that you're putting into your system that we can just jump you right up and out and through into the higher dimensions. Now, some of you can just turn this around to yourself right at this moment and say, wait a minute, you're so right. Why am I doing this? And you've already made the decision in your heart and your soul, and you know it. So, what's stopping you? Time to make the change. And don't be afraid of the change. And yes, I do understand that some of the drugs take a little bit of time to wean off. So I'm not asking people to do things without, of course, should they choose medical or psychological advice. And weaning is good for some of them. So what you do is, usually many of the antidepressants take 1 to 2 weeks to start to get up to a little level in your system. And then they take a little, then you go back in 30, 60 days and you see somebody, and then you go up a dose, and then little by little by little. Well, there's help coming in from all different levels. Find yourself a good homeopath if you can, find yourself a healer. And now I'm going to say the one other thing that I know is hard for people to understand. Many psychological disorders, when they come at the higher level, meaning your body is affected, a lot of them are negative entity attachments. Don't be afraid. Don't be worried. Just understand that there are many healers out there now who we can just dissolve that entity attachment in just so easily, even with addictions. Because what's happening is a lot of the old attachments that were there, we had to work really hard to release them. But as I've described to people, now they're just kind of unsticking and slipping off and going away permanently. How wonderful is that? You see, there is wonderful news beyond all of this. I know this is long-winded. My heart just simply wants everybody to understand how we have been bamboozled. I tell stories because I don't know how else to get through to you. And I have been doing this for so many years. My heart just wants everyone healed. If you like this message, if you think it was valuable, I am asking, please share, please like, please subscribe. You understand by now, if you've listened to my other videos, that I have social media issues, so I need you, all of you, to take those extra few minutes to get these videos out that resonate with you. Only if they resonate with you, I understand. Be brave. Start to tell the truth and let others know. We are here to change the world. We are sovereign beings. We do not accept this BS any longer. You are your greatest healer. If everyone saved their life first, we would have no one to save. Many of us have popped up into the higher dimensions, but I'm not willing to not still give my best to be able to help anyone who wants to now take action to help themselves. That's how much you are loved. Your guides are around you. Your angels are around you. Just one little step, and it's all going to start to finally fall in place like it never has before. You can let go of the sadness. You can let go of the unknowingness. You can let go of the anxiety. You can let go of the addictions. You can let go of all of these things because you are loved. You are healed. And it's time to move on to a wonderful new life and be able to enjoy the things that are coming. Love you.